Okay, so a few people have asked me to do this next story, which is from the West Country Tales. So I thought, why not? It's a good story and I have a few things to say about it. So this is from series 1 and it's called The Beast. Now this is basically a two-parter. The first part sees a man travelling down from London into Cornwall, back to the village he grew up in, and he's going down to investigate some weird goings on that his sister's written to him about. As part of the journey, he reminisces on his childhood and an incident that happened one day. Now, somewhat grimly, it's about him going out at the crack of dawn with a shotgun that he's hidden away and slowly repaired. He's got a couple of cartridges and he's going out hunting, wants to use his cartridges for the first time. Now he goes across fields and there's some great rural landscape in it. You really get the sense of the bleakness of the fields and the moors. And it's early in the morning, so it's a really nice, quiet, well shot section of the show. Now he's hunting down things and he hears something in some woods and he goes to investigate and he's tracking something down. I mean, it's getting slightly more eerie, slightly more unsettling. You're not really quite sure just what it is that is making the noises. Eventually he has a confrontation. We see very brief glimpses of what it is that he's hunting. It's the Beast. Now I'm not going to give too much away, but this is possibly not the best special effects ever seen, but that in its own way makes it more realistic, makes it more authentic. So as these are all allegedly stories that were sent in by viewers, it's got that kind of believability. Now the narration in this one is by Jack Watson as opposed to the more usual Keith Barron, but the young man is played by Jamie Barron, who we do think is probably Keith Barron's son, and he was also in Ringa Ringa Rosie, so that's kind of an interesting little connection. The second part starts when he meets his sister at the railway station in the local village, and instead of going back to the farm, she takes him to a local place where they can just have a drink, a quiet drink, and she tells him some of the things that have been going on. Now this is basically, she moves into the old farmhouse and we see a lot of the farmhouse. That plays a big part in this second half. But things start to go a bit wrong. Far from being idyllic, very quickly there's a kind of unsettling edge. Something's disturbing, it's not quite right. Now some of this seems quite mundane, things like a broken pane of glass or the cat coming back looking a bit raggedy. It doesn't actually look that raggedy, but we're told he was mangled. And of course, as the husband has to play the role in the early 80s, he's a bit of an unbelieving, disbelieving, dismissive so-and-so. And he has to go out and investigate the noises outside, and he finds that there's a cat knocking over the milk bottles, which reinforces his skepticism. So it's kind of fitting that after a while he's the one who has an incident. And that's really the story. There's these two incidents. Are they linked? And what does it mean? We are left with a very open-ended story on this one. There is no nice conclusion. There is no tying up of the knots. It's just left with a warning about property buying in Cornwall. Probably one you might want to take the heed of. Now, a lot of people looking at the title of this, knowing where it's set, will probably be thinking of the Beast of Bodmin, that famous panther or puma or big cat that is alleged to roam around the Bodmin Moor in Cornwall. And as an aside, I do actually know a couple who swear that they have seen the Beast of Bodmin. They say, I think it was a puma, and they saw it in the middle of the day on a weekend. They don't like to talk about it much. They're not the sort of people who would make this up or would want to indulge in storytelling. They're people who are pretty straight-laced, and I don't think they talk about it much. They just mentioned it to my mother after they came back because they were so shocked. It is a interesting sighting because I don't think these are people who, as I say, would have made it up. They seem very sure of what they saw, and this happened about 6 or 7 years ago. So just an aside, but yeah, there could well be beasts on Bodmin Moor. Contrary to people's expectations then, this is not about that Beast of Bodmin. That didn't really become famous news until 1984, a year after this programme was made and shown. So I think the sort of beast we're talking about here is more akin to a Sasquatch or Bigfoot in American terms, or in English mythology, the Woodwose, a hairy wild man, but it dates back to at least medieval times, and there's a report in 1167 from Orford in Sussex, where one of these was captured by by fishermen in their nets. So this is English folklore, this is English mythology that we're seeing here, and it's a lesser known cryptoid, the Woodwose, get that right. But you can see the Woodwose in medieval churches and medieval art, and it's not far removed from the Green Man. It's not far removed from a lot of those sort of semi-pagan imagery that you see in ancient manuscripts and churches. So it's an interesting take. They don't specify it as such in the programme, but I think, with that general folkloric background, this is possibly what we're seeing here. So that's The Beast, another entertaining entry in the West Country Tales series. There will be more coming up because there's so many good ones, though I do hope to do other programmes as well. But I think this is folk drama. This is the stories and the tales that go around folk villages, and accounts that happen to people that get dismissed but can't really be explained, but we see on a regular basis, and that happening to people an awful lot, but they just don't get taken seriously. They don't make national news unless the BBC is really short of a story one day. So that's The Beast. More coming up. Until then, take care